So that's our 1 minute pitch is over and done with. So now it's time to get back onto the long, lengthy 5-minute talks instead. And our first talk for the second half is a previous speaker at Ignite Liverpool. And if you welcome to the stage Jackie Pease, who's going to be telling us Jackie's going to be telling us about how to make maintenance fun.
So I think this turned out to be a bit more harder than I thought. So I think what I'm really going to be showing is some examples of situations where maintenance is fun, and then I'll leave it till later to think about how I might make all maintenance fun. Okay. This is me at my work. I work in software maintenance for a software house, and I find that interesting quite a lot of the time, but I do find that in my spare time I like to make new things, like add lights to things or think about making jewellery. I am interested in maintenance, and I'm one of the organisers of the Festive Maintenance, which is happening in Liverpool on the 28th of September this year. So this was one of the speakers at the Festive Maintenance last year, who's Alex, who actually thinks that maintenance needs to have more of a story. So one of the things she says is that in fairy tales, the story starts after the wedding. Firefighting, so with dams and things like this, it's actually really good fun to firefight. You get to try out everything, you work as a team, you don't have to worry about things, you might even get to call out the RAF. But the downside is that it can be very stressful, very expensive, and very wasteful of resources. So we need to look at something else in that situation. So here's some other examples of slow maintenance which people very much enjoy. This is Tom of Holland, who's one of the speakers at the Festival of Maintenance this year, and he does visible darning and visible repairs to clothes, which you can see here. Here's another example of that sort of thing, which is Japanese Sashiko embroidery. This is a fireman's coat, which is made just of various layers of clothes quilted together and actually provides protection to a fire. This is very popular now because it can be used for repairing clothes and doing that in a creative way. Actually showing what you're doing and not buying new clothes all the time. And you get to choose the pattern you're using. It's a very nice thing to do. This is a mill I went to see in Lee where I work recently, and I talked to the bloke who maintains all these machines. People always like to maintain steam engines, and they always talk about them as though they're living creatures, and they can hear when something's wrong just by a faint difference in tone. This is another of the speakers from this year's Festival of Maintenance, Donna, who's the curator of the herbarium at World Museum, and her job seems like the opposite, where she's not looking after a living creature but keeping something dead. Sensors always come into use for this sort of thing, and these days we can look after much more stuff by using sensors to see what's going on and hopefully still get a sense of how things are. So now some of the things that we've maintained it does. So these were Christmas tree lights on a tree that Adrian and Simon did a couple of years ago. They were out all winter and they got a bit damaged, and recently a couple of us, me, Chris and Paul, decided to get them back into a good state. So here's, it was really good watching people using their skills and working out what people had done before and following the story of what had happened. And those, now they're working again. Not all of them yet, but there's some of them. Another thing we does is we have a list of jobs that people can set up in an issues list. And one of these jobs was this conference table, which Mike started working on, and now it looks really gorgeous, which I'm very surprised at. The rewards there are that you get to use your skills. You get the reward of having closed an issue, and there is something really nice that you end up with. Here's another picture of Mike and Sean mending another piece of equipment. Not to forget all the work we put into keeping stuff going, it does all the time. And this one in Festival of Maintenance also includes care as an example of maintenance, which really surprised me a bit. And this, while I was writing this talk, I heard a doctor on the radio, a GP, going on about the creativity of the job, and I was very surprised, really. Also, something I heard while I was preparing the talk was, or read, was a blog by Adrian where he was talking about how co-working would be useful to workers to get together and learn from each other. So there's one suggestion of how maintenance could be fun. You and me are both going to have to wait until the Festival of Maintenance to find out more, you know. So.